I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, staring at a phone screen that's wrecked my entire world. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 6 years. We had our ups and downs, sure, but overall I thought we were solid. She was the kind of woman who acted like she was better than most people. Bitchy, sarcastic, always throwing around insults like they didn't matter. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Things started to feel off after I lost my job about 3 months ago. I don't know if it was stress or what, but she definitely changed. Lisa would get home late more often than not, claiming she was working late or meeting up with friends. I didn't suspect much at first. She had always been good at hiding her true feelings. But I noticed her phone was glued to her hand more than usual, and she'd get defensive if I even looked at her device. I kept telling myself she was just stressed about money and job loss. Everyone reacts differently, right? But deep down, I sensed something was wrong. Then there was the mood swings. She'd be bitchy, snapping at me over small things, and then suddenly she'd act sweet, pretending nothing was going on. The biggest sign, honestly, was her phone. She kept it on lock all the time, even when she was in the bathroom or cooking dinner. I told myself I was paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Little things added up. Her deodorant smell changed, she was more secretive about her phone, and she started canceling dates, saying she didn't feel like going out. One night I was sitting on the couch, exhausted after a long day, and I noticed her phone buzz. I didn't think much of it, probably a work email or a message from her sister. But I got curious. I reached over and peeked at her notifications. That's when I saw the message. It wasn't from a number I recognized. It was a text from someone named Jake, saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight, the sex will be amazing." Just that simple, blunt line, I froze, my heart sank. I stared at that message, trying to process what I was reading. My mind raced. Who was Jake? Why was Lisa texting him about sex? I felt my stomach turn. I wasn't prepared for this. I had no idea she was cheating on me, and with my best friend, no less. I didn't even know what to feel first. Shock, anger, heartbreak. It was like a punch in the gut, a betrayal so deep I couldn't breathe. How long had this been going on? Had she been doing this the entire time I was unemployed, feeling too guilty or maybe just too indifferent to care? That night I couldn't sleep. All I kept thinking about were those texts, the lies she told me, her bitchy attitude that now made sense in a twisted way. She'd been hiding her true self all along. When I confronted her, I knew I had to be ready. I didn't want her to gaslight me or turn it around like I was overreacting. No, this was real, and it was happening right now. I just didn't know how I was going to handle it. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once, and I didn't even know where to start. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a train. My mind kept circling that message, that girl's name, Jake, and the thought of Lisa, my wife, in some kind of secret affair. I stared at her sleeping face, trying to assess if she had any idea I knew. She looked peaceful, which made me feel 1,000 times worse. How could she sleep so soundly knowing she was cheating? That's when I realized I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. I had to confront her, get some answers, maybe even figure out what the hell I was going to do next. I got up early, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table trying to organize my thoughts. I didn't want her to catch on that I knew. I needed a plan. I thought about just throwing it all out at her, calling her out right then and there. But I knew Lisa. She was bitchy and manipulative. She'd probably lie or deny everything, gaslight me until I doubted my own eyes. I needed a way to get her to admit it, or at least catch her in the act again. I remembered she'd told me she was meeting her friend Sarah yesterday. I decided I'd check her texts again, just to see if she slipped up. At first I was cautious, hesitant, but I couldn't help myself. I unlocked her phone, and that's when I saw a new message from Jake, sent just a few hours ago. She was still texting him, still sneaking around. Not only that, but her reply was laced with that same bitchy tone she always used, like she was just brushing me off like I was nothing. She told him, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Don't worry, I'll make it worth your while." That threw me over the edge. I felt this rush of rage and sadness all at once. How could she be so callous, so cold? Here I was, feeling vulnerable after losing everything, and she's out with some guy, having sex with him while I was at home trying to hold it together. I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I'd need to confront her right then, but not just accuse her. I wanted to catch her in the act, give her a chance to lie, or better yet, admit everything. I waited until she got home around noon. When she walked in, she looked just as she always did, snarky. Confident like she owned the place. I kept my cool, asked her how her day was, and then I simply asked, "Who's Jake?" She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, acting like I was crazy. "What are you talking about, Mike? I don't know any Jake," she snapped. That lie was so obvious I almost laughed. I pulled out her phone, showed her the message. Her face instantly shifted, her eyes widened, and the smirk faded. "That's not what it looks like," she said, her voice trying to sound innocent but cracking under the pressure. "It's just a stupid joke. I was kidding around with a friend." I didn't buy it. I saw the way she hesitated, the way she looked away for a second. "Seriously, a joke?" I asked, voice rising. "You texted him about sex, Lisa. That's what I saw. You're cheating on me, aren't you?" Her eyes flickered with something, guilt maybe, or just pure disdain. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, please. You're just overreacting because you're stressed. I'm not cheating on you. Jake's just a friend, okay? You're making a big deal out of nothing." I couldn't believe her, the way she lied, the way she tried to dismiss it like it was all some joke, made me furious. I wanted to scream, wanted to shake her and make her tell the truth. But I knew she'd deny everything, probably blame me for being paranoid or insecure. I felt my fists clench, and I knew I was close to losing my temper. But I also knew I had to stay calm, at least for now. I told her I needed some time to think, that I was hurt and angry, and I walked out of the room before I said something I'd regret. I spent the rest of the day locked in my thoughts, realizing that the woman I loved, my wife, had been lying to my face for who knows how long, that her bitchy attitude was just her way of hiding the guilt. The betrayal cut into me like a knife, sharper than I ever expected. I was lost, broken, and suddenly more alone than I'd ever been in my life. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her words, her lies, that damn message from Jake. My mind kept circling around this image of her with him, the way she looked when she thought I wasn't watching, the way she lied so effortlessly. I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, demand she come clean, tell her I knew everything. But another part of me knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Lisa was manipulative, and I'd seen her do it before. I needed a better plan, something that would force her to admit the truth, or at least catch her off guard. The following morning, I woke up with a plan already forming. I decided I'd set a trap. I knew she had that secret meeting with Jake again that night. She told me she was going out with her bitchy friends, but I didn't buy it. I knew she was lying, and I had to confirm what I suspected. I got into her car early, just enough to slip something in that would make her slip up. I slipped my phone into her purse, with a special app I'd installed earlier that kept track of her messages and calls. I wanted to see if she'd contact Jake again, and I wanted evidence, something concrete. Later that day I sat at home pretending to be fine, waiting for her to leave. When she finally said she was going out with her friends, I nodded, acting as if I didn't care. But inside I was already preparing myself. I watched her leave through the window, then waited for a few minutes before I grabbed my phone and checked the app. Sure enough, within minutes she texted Jake again. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've been dreaming about it all day." The confirmation hit hard. She was still lying, still sneaking around. I knew I couldn't confront her directly again without risking her covering her tracks, so I waited until she was gone, then I decided to follow her. I wanted to see where she was going, who she was with. I drove just behind her, keeping a safe distance. She took a turn into a small apartment complex about 15 minutes from home. I parked a little down the street and watched her walk in. My stomach sank. I was almost certain she was with Jake. While I was watching from my car, my mind was racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Did she love him? Did she even care about me at all anymore? The pain was overwhelming. I felt betrayed, humiliated, but also furious. I'd lost my job, my sense of stability, and now I was losing my wife too. She had done everything she could to push me away, acting bitchy, lying, hiding her true self. I knew then that I couldn't stay in this marriage anymore, not like this. But I also didn't want to just walk away without a fight. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. That night I sat in my car outside that apartment complex, waiting for her to come out or for anything to give away what was really happening inside. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The betrayal hurt more than I expected, worse than losing my job or any of the financial struggles we'd been facing, because this was personal. She had lied to my face, called me paranoid, and now she was with someone else, thinking she could just get away with it. I felt a surge of anger, something I'd never really experienced before, to just get back at her too. Make her understand what she was throwing away. When she finally came out around midnight, her face looked flushed and she looked around nervously. I kept my distance but watched her get into her car. I didn't follow her again. I just sat there, heart pounding, knowing I had enough evidence now. I had seen her sneaking around, lying to my face, and that was enough to make me realize this relationship was beyond repair. I was broken, but I also knew I had to take control. I couldn't let her continue this charade, not without consequences. That night I stared at my phone, contemplating my next move. I was exhausted emotionally, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity, a sort of resolve that I'd had enough. I wasn't going to be the fool who gets played. I deserved better than this. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, the way she dismissed my feelings, it all added up. I was done pretending everything was okay when it was. I finally accepted that I had to do something, even if it meant breaking everything apart. That betrayal had cut too deep, and I knew I couldn't fix this. I was ready to face whatever came next. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The evidence was solid now, her secret texts, the fact she was sneaking around behind my back. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be strategic. If I just went off on her, she'd deny everything, spin some bullshit, and I'd end up looking like the crazy one. So I took my time planning my approach. I had to get her to admit it, or at least slip up again. I decided I'd call her bluff. I waited until she was at work, then I slipped my phone into her purse again just to see if she'd contact Jake that day. Sure enough, a few hours later I saw the message pop up on my screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight. This is going to be the best sex ever." I felt a cold wave of rage. It was like she was daring me to say something, daring me to do something about it. I knew I couldn't just sit and watch anymore. I had to see where she was going, who she was. I followed her again, keeping a distance, trying not to be obvious. She drove to that same apartment complex she'd gone to last night. My stomach sank. She was with him, I was sure of it. I watched her go inside, her heels clicking against the pavement. The anger boiled within me. How could she be so bitchy, so dismissive, then turn around and do this? While I was parked across the street, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Hurt, betrayal, but also this crushing sense of finality. I'd had enough. I knew she wanted to keep up the lies, keep pretending everything was fine. But I wasn't going to play her game anymore. I was done being the fool. I finally accepted that our marriage was over, at least in its current form. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to just walk away quietly. I wanted her to feel the pain, to understand what she was throwing away for some quick sex with Jake. That evening I stayed in my car for a while, watching her come out of that apartment complex, looking around nervously. She hurried into her car and sped off. I didn't follow her again. What was the point? I already knew what I needed to know. I had enough proof to confront her, to show her I wasn't naive or crazy. I'd seen enough of her lies, her bitchy attitude, her sneaky behavior. I was finally ready to face her with everything I had. When she got home later that night, I was already waiting in the living room. She looked surprised, maybe even annoyed, like I was bothering her. I kept my cool, even though inside I was burning with anger and hurt. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know about you and Jake. I saw the messages, the way you've been lying. Tell me the truth. Are you cheating on me?" Her face froze for a second, then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, come on, Mike, you're losing it. I told you it's nothing, just some stupid joke, a misunderstanding." She tried to brush it off like I was overreacting, but I didn't buy it anymore. I pointed to her phone, to the messages, and said, "No more lies. I saw everything. I know you've been sleeping with him, and I know you've been bitchy to cover it up. Why did you do this?" She crossed her arms, scoffing again. Look, you're just mad because you lost your job and you're insecure. Jake's just a friend and you're just jealous. It's not a big deal. Her words made my blood boil. I could see her trying to twist everything around, acting like the victim. But I was done listening to her bullshit. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and that I was done with the lies. I said I was leaving, that I deserved better than this. She started yelling, calling me crazy, saying I was overreacting and that I was destroying everything for nothing. But deep down, I knew it was over. I couldn't stay in a marriage where I was constantly lied to, where my wife was sleeping around with my best friend. The betrayal had shattered whatever trust we had left. I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with sadness. I was finally accepting that I had to walk away, even if it hurt like hell. That night I packed a bag and left. I didn't look back. As I drove away from the house, I felt a strange emptiness, like I'd lost everything, and yet some part of me was finally free. I realized that her bitchy attitude, her lies, her sneaky sex with Jake, they all pointed to one thing. She didn't respect me, didn't care about our marriage, and had been cheating for who knows how long. It was a brutal lesson, but one I had to learn. And honestly, I'm glad I found out before it was too late. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions: shock, anger, deep sadness, and a strange sense of relief. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of how I'd been so blind for so long. The betrayal hurt way more than I expected, especially knowing she had lied so effortlessly and kept Jake a secret while pretending to be the devoted wife I thought I knew. It's funny how the mind works. You think you're strong until someone shatters your entire world with just a few texts and a few lies. I spent a lot of time alone, trying to process what had happened. I kept asking myself why she did it, what I could have done differently. But ultimately, I knew it wasn't my fault. Lisa was bitchy, manipulative, and clearly didn't care about me. Her attitude, her constant lies, her sneaky sex with Jake, everything pointed to one thing: she was never really committed. She just used me as a paycheck, as someone to keep up appearances and pretend everything was fine. After a few days, I started thinking about what I needed to do for myself. I knew I couldn't go back to that mess. I needed to move on, rebuild my life, and get past the pain. I contacted a lawyer, started the process of separation, and began the long, painful journey of healing. But even as I tried to put everything behind me, that betrayal still stuck in my head like a scar that wouldn't fade. Every time I thought about her bitchy attitude, her lies, and that sneaky sex with Jake, I felt a mixture of anger and loss. One thing I learned from all this is how important it is to trust your gut. I ignored the signs for too long, convinced myself I was overreacting or that she was stressed. But the truth was staring me right in the face all along. Her bitchy attitude, her constant lies, her secret sex, those weren't just random signs. They were her telling me who she really was, and I just refused to see it until I had no choice. I also learned that some people are just not worth fighting for. Lisa was selfish, manipulative, and unfaithful. No amount of explanation or apology would fix what she had broken. I couldn't change her, and I didn't want to spend my life trying to fix what was already broken beyond repair. I needed to focus on myself, rebuild my confidence, find a new direction. The hardest part was accepting that I'd lost someone I loved, someone I thought was my partner for life. But in a strange way, I also felt like I'd gained clarity. I finally saw her for who she really was: a bitchy, lying cheat who didn't deserve my loyalty or love. It's tough to admit, but I don't regret finding out the truth. If anything, it's pushed me to become stronger, more aware of what I want and what I won't tolerate. Now I'm just taking it day by day, still healing, still trying to figure out what's next. But I know one thing for sure: no matter how bad it hurts now, I'll come out the other side. I've learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you what you really value. And I'll never let someone treat me like that again. I've got a fresh start, and honestly, I'm ready for whatever comes next. Looking back, I realized that this whole experience changed me in ways I wouldn't have expected. At first, I was just broken and furious, feeling like I'd been completely blindsided. But over time, I started to see it as a wake-up call. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, her secret sex with Jake, those were her way of showing me she didn't care. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever known, but it also forced me to confront some hard truths about trust, respect, and self-worth. One thing I've learned is that people reveal their true colors eventually. Lisa's attitude, her constant manipulation, her sneaky sex, those weren't just surface-level problems. They were her core, her real self. And no matter how much I wanted to believe she was just stressed or misunderstood, her actions proved otherwise. That realization hurt, but it also gave me clarity. I could keep pretending everything was okay when it clearly was. As I stand here now, a few months later, I'm in a different place. I've started focusing on myself again, rebuilding my confidence and trying to find some sense of peace. I cut ties with her completely. No contact, no drama, no regrets. I know I deserve better than someone who lies and cheats, who plays games and manipulates. I've learned to listen to my instincts, to trust my own judgment, and to walk away from anything that's not genuine. This whole ordeal has taught me that betrayal is a harsh teacher, but a necessary one. It forces you to see through the bullshit, to recognize your own worth, and to never settle for less. I've come to accept that some people are just not meant to stay in your life, no matter how much you might want them to. When someone shows you who they really are, bitchy, manipulative, unfaithful, believe them. Don't make excuses or try to fix what's broken beyond repair. If there's any advice I could give anyone reading this, it's this: trust your gut. Pay attention to the signs, even if they seem small. Don't ignore your feelings or dismiss your intuition because you're afraid of losing someone. Because in the end, losing someone who doesn't value you is better than staying in a toxic relationship. You have to protect yourself, stand your ground, and remember that your happiness and respect come first. I won't lie, it still hurts sometimes. But I know now that I'm stronger than I thought. I've faced betrayal, loss, and heartbreak, and I came out on the other side. I'm still healing, still figuring out what's next, but I'm finally free. Free from the bitchy lies, the sneaky sex, and the false front she put up. I'm learning to love myself again, and that's the most important thing I could do. Whatever the future holds, I know I'll be okay. Because I've learned that sometimes the biggest betrayal can lead to the biggest growth.